The Disney magic that had depth, that had absolute, it was riveting, and it's based, of course, on a Brothers Grimm story.
Disney's standing on wobbly legs like some overstretched titan teetering on the edge of a cliff. And Rachel Zegler's Snow White, rather than being the shining jewel in their crown, didn't just trip over itself at the box office. It stumbled so hard, it sent Tangled's much-hyped Reboot tumbling into a ditch, leaving the mouse house tangled up in a chaotic mess of dashed hopes and fractured fairy tales that they can't seem to untangle no matter how hard they tug. Peering through the dust and debris where Snow White's box office blues are bleeding out across the headlines, where Tangled's dreams are snagged in the fallout like a kite caught in thorns, and where a Star Studio clash is ripping holes in Disney's once pristine storybook facade, exposing a saga that's less about pixie dust and more about defiance, disaster, and dreams unraveling faster than a spool of thread in a windstorm. Tracing Zegler's spark from humble roots to blazing rebellion, unpacking Snow White's crash that left critics and fans alike recoiling, charting Tangled's trouble as it drowns in the wake, and watching Disney scramble to patch up a kingdom that's starting to look more like a house of cards than a magical empire. Because this tale's got grit, guts, and no shortage of grime, so let's dive in. Rachel Zegler's journey kicks off not under dazzling Hollywood lights, but in the flickering glow of a Jersey church basement, where she's a scrawny 13-year-old with braces and a voice that's still finding its footing, harmonizing through hymns like How Great Thou Art at Sunday services, while her family watches from creaky pews. Her early years marked by shaky solos at school recitals. Think The King and I or Guys and Dolls, where she's belting out notes that sometimes waver but always carry a hunger that's impossible to ignore. Hunched over a cracked laptop in her bedroom, scouring casting calls between algebra homework and choir practice, when Disney's 2018 West Side Story open audition drops like a lifeline, prompting her to record a tape. Voice raw, nerves jangling, but soul pouring through, standing out in a flood of thousands until Spielberg plucks her from obscurity. And by 2021, she's Maria, commanding the screen with a fire that snags her a Golden Globe at 19, turning a choir kid into a name Hollywood can't stop buzzing about. Disney's practically tripping over itself to lock her in, casts her as Snow White in 2019, banking on her outsider spark and vibrant edge to breathe new life into their remake machine, and buzzing with the thought that she's the next big thing, a fairy tale hero in the making, until she grabs the spotlight and flips the script entirely, because by 2023, she's tearing into the 1937 classic with a vengeance, declaring in interviews with a sly grin that the prince is a stalker and this Snow White isn't waiting for rescue. She's rewriting the rules, a bold stance that Disney hopes will sell their gutsy reboot. But the fans, they're not just upset, they're livid, flooding X with rants like, "Stop ruining our childhood," and hashtags like, "Keep Snow White classic" that rack up thousands of posts, while Ziegler's tossing out fiery X updates like sparks on dry grass. And I'm glued to my screen, muttering to myself that Disney's got a rebel who's about to burn the castle down, because the trouble's only just starting to simmer. Then Snow White storms into theaters in 2025, and the box office blues hit with the force of a runaway train smashing through a rickety bridge, because Disney's decision to ditch the dwarfs for CGI figures, a move they spin as progressive after sensitivity talks, backfires spectacularly when fans unleash a torrent of fury online, calling it a spineless cop-out, and launching petitions with thousands of signatures demanding real dwarfs or nothing, while the prince gets axed entirely, leaving Zegler's Snow White to strut as a leader with no romance in sight, a choice that splits the audience down the middle. Gal Gadot's evil queen casting stirs its own tempest, her IDF background clashing like oil and water with Zegler's Justice for All X outbursts that rile up factions on both sides. And the production's already a mess, battered by 2023 strikes that push it back a year, followed by test screenings that tank so hard Disney's forced to scramble with last-minute tweaks. But none of it saves the vibe, because critics claw it apart, 44% on Rotten Tomatoes, with Variety branding it a joyless slog that forgets its heart. And then Zegler drops an X-bomb after Trump's 2024 win, snarling that his followers can rot in their hate, lighting a fuse under conservative fans who scream boycott louder than ever, leaving Disney in a frantic tailspin as rumors swirl they've slapped a PR leash on her, though her half-hearted "let's heal" retraction lands like a damp napkin, and they're deafening. Now Tangled's tangled in this disaster, and Disney's trouble swells into a full-blown crisis, because the 2010 Tangled was a shimmering treasure. Rapunzel's pluck, Flynn's swagger, those lanterns floating against a twilight sky, a nostalgic hit that still tugs heartstrings years later, setting the stage for a live-action reboot that had me dreaming, with Michael Gracey's bold vision promising spectacle and Jennifer Caton Robinson's whip-smart script teasing a fresh spin, while casting whispers of Emma Stone or Haley Steinfeld had me practically bouncing with anticipation. Then Snow White's blues crash the party. April 2025 rolls in, and Disney yanks Tangled's cord, leaving it stranded in pre-production limbo. It's a domino effect toppling Disney's next fairy tale crown, turning Tangled's glowing promise into a pile of ash, and the Mouse House is racing to dodge the fallout before it buries them deeper. Disney's been wrestling with Rebels since the ink dried on Mickey's ears, and the ghosts of those clashes still echo through the halls, starting with Hilary Duff, who's a spark in 2003 as Lizzie McGuire's Golden Girl, dazzling tweens with her quirky charm until she pushes for a grittier movie sequel that clashes hard with Disney's squeaky clean vision, leading to a standoff that ends with the project scrapped and Duff walking away, leaving execs fuming over a lost cash cow. Then there's Corbin Bleu, who's riding high in 2007 with Jump In, flipping ropes and winning hearts. But when Disney tries to lock him into sequels, he bolts for Broadway instead, dodging their grip with a quiet, "Nah, I'm out," a move that stings the Mouse House's pride and leaves them scrambling to fill the gap, both tales unearthing as proof that Zegler's fire isn't new because she's cut from the same cloth, a rogue spirit Disney can't chain down no matter how tight they pull the reins. Then Snow White's editing room descends into pure hell, thickening the blues like storm clouds over a doomed voyage, because Zegler battling tooth and nail against cuts, pleading in late-night voice memos to keep her authentic takes, per hushed deadline reports, while execs carve it up anyway, drowning it in CGI sludge that fans sniff out as desperate, a frantic 2024 rush to fix the venom spewing from early previews, though it's less a fix and more a massacre, leaving editors bleary-eyed and cursing under fluorescent lights as Zegler's vision gets buried. Reels slashed, tempers flaring, a film gutted until it's a hollow shell that can't hide the panic, because Disney's blues aren't just about empty seats. It's a spirit crushed, and Tangled's trouble feels the tremor of that collapse rippling outward. The remake gamble's always been a high-wire act teetering on the edge of brilliance or bust, and Zegler's flop sends it plummeting, because while Aladdin's 2019 dazzle lights up the scoreboard with Will Smith's genie swagger, Artemis Foul's 2020 Disney Plus debut crashes like a lead balloon. Critics shred it as a disjointed flop that leaves fans cold. And Maleficent, Mistress of Evil's 2019 stumble, proves even Angelina Jolie's icy glare can't lift a sequel that drags its wings, derailing Disney's remake train with a screech that echoes through their slate, because Robin Hood's whispers are fading fast and Sword in the Stone feels like a pipe dream. Zegler's clash acting as the jagged rock that finally splits the hull, leaving the Mouse House bailing water with trembling hands. Disney's busts stretch back decades, piling onto Snow White's blues like bricks on a crumbling foundation, because in 1985, the Black Cauldron, their dark fantasy gamble, tanks so hard it nearly bankrupts the animation wing, slashed by test audiences who call it too scary. While 1994's The Santa Claus sequel talks stall when Tim Allen clashes over script control, delaying it years, 2004's Home on the Range flops with a whimper, Cows Can't Save It, 2012's John Carter Bleeds Red, a sci-fi misfire that buries $200 million in Martian dust, 2020's Mufasa prequel hype fizzles when early leaks call it safe, because Disney's been a flop factory longer than anyone cares to admit, and she's just the latest ember in a fire that's been smoldering for ages. Disney's tangled in trouble after Snow White's box office blues, with Zegler as the fuse that lit the blast. The film a hollow dud that couldn't fill seats, and Tangled left stranded in the wreckage of a fairy tale empire that's losing its shimmer faster than a fading spell. Hillary and Corbin's old rebellions, the remake train's derailment, and a history of busts piling up like storm debris, all crowned by Zegler's clash that's a jagged shard in Disney's sinking ship, while David Lowery steps in with Peter Pan whispers hanging by a thread, leaving me skeptical of any quick fix as Zegler stays silent, her next chapter a shadow, and Disney staggers under the weight. Will she claw her way back from this inferno, or is her star dimming under the blues? Can Tangled ever weave its way out of this tangled nightmare, or is it doomed to gather dust? What's the next page in this unraveling epic, and how's Disney digging out from under these crushing blues? Smash that like, hit subscribe, because more Tangled tales are brewing. Let's keep slashing through this mess together.